Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hello and welcome to Cheap Shot Entertainment. This is another retro review for the end of WCW, because we're coming to the end of WCW. This time 20 years ago we had the very last WCW program, which was a Monday Nitro, which was also Night of Champions, and I'm going to go through everything that happened on that show, so why not join us for the main part of the video. The final WCW Monday Nitro happened on the 26th of March 2001, 20 years ago as we watch this video, hopefully as you watch this video. It was 20 years since the very final show of WCW. It doesn't seem like 5 minutes really. Wrestling's come a long way. We've now got a couple of Phoenix shows, so to speak, rising up from the end of that. My WrestleGate shirt, obviously WrestleGate unfortunately is no longer, but we've got a Wrestle Carnival now from the same owner, so that's in the UK. So it came from Panama Beach Resort, and it was Panama City, Florida. The unique setting of this, it was in a hotel during spring break. You've got the pool, you've got the weird entranceway coming over the pool, and just it, and people watching from balconies and all sorts of things. It was just so unique. It just drew you in. It's just a shame that there's so many matches on here and so much of it was taken up by Vince McMahon saying the very fate of WCW is in my hands. So much of it was taken up by Vince McMahon that there wasn't a lot of time for the wrestlers to do their thing and sort of prove to Vince that they should be kept in the ring, so to speak, as WWE bought their competition. We start off with a Vince McMahon featuring a opening the broadcast rather in a pretend backstage segment from Cleveland, Ohio. The site of that night's WWE or WWF Raw is War. They were going to do a simulcast, whatever that is, in which he announced he had bought WCW, bought his competition and the fans and wrestlers for those shows during a simulcast, which is what I said, and both TNN and TNT networks were showing both shows. Booker T then continued to defeat Scott Steiner in 5 minutes and 11 seconds with the bookend to win the United States Championship. He retained the United States Championship and capturing the World Championship at the same time. This was a very quick match and right at the beginning of the show, but it was decent, so I'm going to give this one 3 cheap shots out of 5. He won that with a bookend, reversing a powerbomb attempt from Scott Steiner. Moving on to the next match, it is Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman versus Shannon Moore and Evan Courageous versus Kaz Hayashi and Yang for the #1 contendership to the Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships. This match was only 3 minutes and 38 seconds long, but it was eventually Kidman and Rey Mysterio who defeated Moore with a top rope leg drop off the top, as Moore hung backwards from the middle rope. Due to pre-match stipulations, Mysterio and Kidman had then earned a championship match for the newly minted WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships, a title that lasted about 2 weeks. which is a shame because it was a nice looking title and WCW really knew what they were doing with their cruiserweights at the time. So they got a match later on. Such a short match, again, crazy match, but I really loved it. Everyone was trying to get their shots in, but it was really enjoyable for what it was, but I'm going to give it 2.5 cheap shots out of 5. They've been given more time and there was less Vince McMahon. Who knows how good this match would have been, but owing to the fact that the winners would go on to another match later on in the night, I can see why this match was so short. But they just wanted to give everyone a last hurrah. Shane Helms in a match next with Chavo Guerrero, newly crowned WCW Cruiserweight Champion, winning the title from Chavo Guerrero at the last pay-per-view. I can't even remember what that was now. It's not Super Brawl. It's Sin. I want to say Sin. Sin or Greed, anyway, because they had a punch on for naming pay-per-views in WCW after Deadly Sins, and he would defeat Chavo Guerrero in 4 minutes and 39 seconds with a vertebreaker, the same move that got him the title in the first place, and he would retain the Cruiserweight Championships. It was very by the numbers, but I did really enjoy watching the Cruiserweights on the 3 pay-per-views that I've watched from WCW leading up to their end point. So I'm going to give this one a 3 cheap shots out of 5. Again, more time would have got a better score, I'm pretty sure of that. More tag team action now. We've got Sean O'Haire and Chuck Palumbo versus Lance Storm and Mike Awesome of Team Canada. So O'Haire and Chuck Palumbo are the current WCW Tag Team Champions, and Lance Storm and Mike Awesome are the challengers. O'Haire defeats Awesome with a swanton bomb. Imagine a 6-foot guy muscled up to the eyeballs, jumping off the top like they were Jeff Hardy, hitting a swanton bomb. Always thought Sean O'Haire was very much misused in the Invasion, and he should have been much more prominent in things, but that's the way the WCW did it in the time. So when he went to WWE, he wasn't quite up to standards of what they expect from their superstars, because it was a case of, in WCW, the inmates pretty much ran the asylum, so no one listened to authority. As soon as you get to WWE, that's not happening, pal. You've got to listen to your boss, otherwise you get fired. Just like saying that, to be honest. 3 minutes and 21 seconds it took for Sean O'Haire and Chuck Palumbo to retain the WCW Tag Team Championships, like I say, with that swanton bomb after a jungle kick from Palumbo, and we retain the championships. Another quick one, but this doesn't capture my attention as quickly as the Cruiserweight matches did. I'm going to give this one 2 cheap shots out of 5. Whew. Breathe. Going on to the next match now. Yeah, this is crazy. This is a 2-hour show and we got all these matches. Shawn Stasiak with Stacy Keibler versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Stasiak defeated Bam Bam Bigelow again. Again and again and again. With the neck breaker when Stacy prevented Bigelow from hitting the Greetings from Ashbury Park pre-match stipulations. From hitting the Greetings from Ashbury Park. I think that might be the somersault thing, the moonsault. Pre-match stipulations suggest that if Bigelow won, he would tattoo Stasiak. Obviously he did not win, so that stipulation was redundant. 1 minute and 23 seconds for this match. There is definitely a pattern forming here. No thoughts on this one at all. Didn't even give me time to think or write anything down. 1 cheap shot out of 5, and that is being very, very generous. So we move on now. We're coming to the final couple of matches. The Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships were given 4 minutes and 43 seconds. It is Kidman and Rey Mysterio, who'd won the match earlier on in the night to get the #1 contendership, versus Elix Skipper and Kid Romeo, the first ever Cruiserweight Tag Team Champions. Kidman and Rey Mysterio would defeat Elix Skipper and Kid Romeo with the Kid Crusher and win the WCW Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships. So far they've been in circulation for about 2 weeks and they've been won twice. So that gives you an idea of what WCW were doing at the time. So during the match, I've got this down here, Tony Schiavone discusses Steven Ricol's bad mouthing of WCW earlier in the show. Yeah, you don't want to buy these people, you don't want to buy this company, they're full of vagabonds and all that kind of stuff. Very William Regal type stuff. And says how he put his ass over when Regal was with the company. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Another quick one, and I'm going to give this one 2 cheap shots out of 5. Not quite as good as the as the triple threat match or the 3-way dance or whatever you want to call it, but still serviceable. And this was all leading up to the final match, which was Sting and Ric Flair, given a total of 7 minutes and 17 seconds to do their thing. But it was Sting who came out on top of this one, defeated Ric Flair by a submission using the Scorpion Deathlock, and following a suplex after the bout, Sting helped Flair to his feet and shook hands before the two hugged, knowing that this was probably going to be the last time they were ever going to get to be in the ring as competitors together. Of course, not too long before this, Ric Flair would still be on WWE television and has sown his seed at the age of 71 in a kayfabe storyline. True story. This was an epic match. Really enjoyed this one, even though it's very short. I'm going to give this one 3 cheap shots out of 5. So the thing that this show was all leading up to was the ending, the thing that would be shown over and over again during WrestleMania 17, which was when Vince McMahon was expecting the contract from Ted Turner to be delivered by hand to the ring so that Vince McMahon could sign it and buy his competition. We have a live World Wrestling Federation simulcast, began in Cleveland, Ohio, commentated by Jim Ross and Paul Heyman, in which Vince McMahon cut an in-ring promo about the purchase of WCW and said that the sale from Time Warner would be finalised at WrestleMania X7. When Ted Turner delivered his contract to him by hand, Vince McMahon then discussed the upcoming match with his son Shane. Of course, they are locked in a feud at this point, with Linda McMahon being passive because she's been drugged up by her husband. True story. He then said he would put WCW on the shelf or run it as a media conglomerate like WWF, and listed several WCW stars to see if the crowd would pop. Maybe we should bring this person in, maybe we should bring that person in. He mentioned Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger, Buff Bagwell, Booker T, Scott Steiner, Sting and Goldberg. Goldberg received the biggest pop, but obviously he was sat at home on a guaranteed contract, so there's no way he was showing up for a little while. Same with Steiner and Hogan and Nash and Hall. So moments later, Shane McMahon walked to the ring in Panama City, saying that he had finalised the purchase of WCW and he was now the owner of the competition. Great segment by both of these two, really good. And he was the owner of WCW. Shane then said he would beat Vince at WrestleMania, just like WCW used to beat WWF on the Monday Night Wars. The show ended with a promo for Rory's Wars main event, which is the WWF World Champion The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the Brothers of Destruction, and a Rock Austin WrestleMania X7 commercial would finish out the show. So, what do I think of the last ever WCW Monday Nitro? Well, it was very WCW. Lots of matches, not given enough time, and it was mingled in with WWF sticking their greasy fingers in and saying, no, you can't have that time, that's ours, that's going to Vince McMahon, which I suppose you can do because they own the company, but it just seemed like it was a bit of a fizzle. Yes, there was lots of championship matches, but the shortest match, or the longest match going 7 minutes and 17 seconds, and the shortest match 1 minute 23. Yes, I did time these things. For the nostalgia purposes, I would say go and watch it. If you're looking for a good wrestling show, this is definitely not it, although I've given quite high scores to the matches themselves. They just don't have enough time to do anything significant, and that is my final thought on WCW in general in 2001. Obviously they had their moments, but they were way past it by this point. They knew they were going downhill from Sin to Super Brawl to Greed, and by the time this show aired, by the time this show was live, they knew their fate, and it was just a case of giving people one last hurrah. And I think they did that. They got many people involved in the show. Just think it could have been done a lot better. But yeah, I can't recommend it. It was okay. I don't think I'm going to be going back and watching it again, just because it's quite a sad thing to see that WCW was going out of business, and still 20 years later would never come back. We've got certain things from WCW, War Games, things like that, but it is just names of pay-per-views and matches rather than an actual WCW show. We had ECW, of course, but I think WCW probably would have been a little bit better in the current climate and the current situation of the world at the moment to give that competition. But of course WWE now have competition in AEW, so they don't really need to do that. Yeah, that was it. That's the last of the retro reviews for WCW for 2001. If you've got any suggestions for pay-per-views that you'd like me to watch in terms of WCW, then please do send them my way. Very much concentrated on going year by year from the year 2000. We're in 2001 now, and hopefully the live shows will come back eventually, so I can go and watch some British wrestling as well. Fingers crossed, people, fingers crossed. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. You're the Cheap Shot Nation, and keep enjoying their wrestling. Goodbye.